Hello fellow ant keepers. Welcome back to another video from Ant Subong. In today's video, I will be showing you the update on some of my colonies' progress and their feeding habits. I will also be talking about some of the benefits of keeping any one of these species which I am about to show you. First up, let me show you the update on this Camponotus Nicobarensis ants colony. This colony is established by a single queen, and they have been progressing tremendously well. I caught this queen along with the others mid of last year, and I decided to keep this particular queen because of her unhealthy size. She had a small gaster and a smaller build as compared to others. Some queens don't make it through the founding having these traits. I owned a Camponotus Nicobarensis in the past, but to make a long story short, I somehow managed to kill the entire 200 workers colony within a day. I made a rookie mistake by reapplying the alcohol powder barrier, while they were in a medium-size acrylic formicarium at that time. The formicarium I got does not allow me to detach the entire top horizontal panel, and only the small cover can be removed. So I knew that by applying the barrier there would be a contortionist maneuver. I went ahead and applied the barrier anyways. It was difficult to apply the powder barrier, and most of the alcohol was dripping into the nest area. The nest at that time had a plaster base with a sand coating, so it immediately soaked up the alcohol. I didn't think much of it, but to my surprise, most of the workers had died within the hour. The queen and the rest of the workers died the following day with much pain and agony. There wasn't much I could do but having only a fan blowing into the nest. It was a little too late, and I was devastated, especially knowing that it could happen, and I still went ahead and did it. Camponotus nicobarensis can grow to several thousands of individuals, and is a relatively rapid-growing species. They are considered to be the large species of the Camponotus genus. We know that Camponotus genus are slow developers, but not this species. They developed rather quickly in terms of egg-to-worker cycle, which only takes around 30 days. The queen, from my experience of keeping a few of them, had their wings still attached. Even after establishing the colony herself, she still will not remove her wings. I have kept this species in a well-ventilated room without air conditioning, but in the early stage the development was extremely slow. Slower than the other Camponotus I caught the same time during their nuptial flight. I did a little research, and I learned that they are suited for a lower room temperature environment to be able to grow well. I am very particular about temperatures, as I have many temperature monitors in my nest and around the room as well. I want my ants to have the fullest potential, as different ants' growth speed depends on the temperature. Many keepers asked me if it's okay to keep their colony in an air-conditioned room. My answer is not advisable. Having an ant's colony kept in an air-conditioned room is not the main problem, it is the temperature fluctuation that they will be experiencing. Ants are very sensitive to temperature change, and their instinct to react to these changes varies. Some species may even have lesser egg production due to this. Most will move the broods daily to accommodate to the fluctuation in temperature. Having a constant or 1 to 2 degrees differential is the best way to go. This will minimize the stress on the colony. So, the ideal temperature I am keeping them in is at 25 to 27 degrees, it's practically in a closet environment. I find my Nicobarensis colony is less active during the day. They will basically just stand there and do nothing. It is a good time for taking a nice video of them. I really like their coloration, their orangey brown color which makes them unique. I have fed them well and sometimes overfed, so they look like honeypot ants hanging from the ceiling. You really need to keep them fed every 2 days, so that their activity of trying to escape will be cut off. The food which I feed to my Nicobarensis consists of heavy proteins and sweets. Heavy in the sense of freshly killed insects, they do need a lot of proteins for their development. I give mostly pre-killed crickets and dubia roaches to them, they do not really like worms. By being a good ants keeper, I always give them their favorite food every time. Sugar or honey is a must but never too much, they can get overdose from sugar. I've seen workers dying with their gaster full. In the past, I have kept the Nicobarensis in a whitong nest made like caverns, but to me, it's just an aesthetics point of view, it doesn't really have benefit to the ants. Having whitong or a plaster nest, in my opinion, is not the best kit for Nicobarensis. It very easily attracts molds, and is very difficult to upkeep. They stay away from dirty chambers which are stained with trash. It is difficult to clean. So for now, I've kept this colony in an acrylic nest. This is the second nest. The first nest where the queen had formed her young colony was a small red starter nest which I carry in my product line. In the beginning, when I wanted to move them into this nest, they refused to leave the starter nest for weeks. Not until the sponge dried up, they finally moved one night. The starter nest is then cleaned and reused for 2 other different ant colonies to date. Next ant's colony is yet another ant subong favorite, the Crematogaster genus. They are one of the most active ants I have ever kept other than the usual fire ants or Corebra diversa. This is Crematogaster rogenhoferi. They are less demanding species among the small ant species. They don't bite nor sting whenever they are disturbed. When excited or disturbed, Crematogaster workers will run around with their abdomens held high above their heads. I have yet to be bitten by them, and on many occasions they got onto my hands just running around displaying their heart-shaped gaster. Many of you managed to get colonies of this species from me, and I am very happy to see them go into better homes. This Crematogaster species loves hiding under rocks, woods or leaves. It is advisable that you keep them in a setup with these elements in mind. They also tend to carry dirt up to branches and form a small nest around the stump of the branch. Give them enough shaded area in the nest, they love those places, and will usually make it into their homes. Moist nest is also a key to their development, where they will most certainly keep their broods in much wetter conditions. One of the sources of energy comes from sugar. They love sugary diet so much that they consume it every day. I used to have a sugar feeder attached to the nest, but I had to remove it as they can finish one test tube of the sugar water within a week. The reason I'm doing this is to try to keep their nest in a clean and controlled environment. They tend to take droplets of the sugar water and carry it to their nest, making it overly sticky. So for now I only give them drops of it every 2 days. Do keep in mind that this behavior only happens to a large colony. For a small colony I doubt they will have the resource to pull out a stunt like this. The queen is a prolific egg layer, similar to fire ants. She lays an estimated 10 to 20 eggs per day. This species has 2 sizes of worker, one larger than the other but similar in shape. Crematogaster can be household pests, and are especially common in your garden. These ants can live in tight spaces inside homes and just outside buildings, traveling inside your home to feed. They do not cause very much damage, but they are still a nuisance. They can be strangely difficult to get off. They tend to have sticky feet. In the wild they tend honeydew-producing insects, hence they protect aphids from predators. Another ant species I want to show you is the underrated Camponotus albosparsus. They are a multicast species with the largest major ants about 8 mm in length. There are 2 yellow spots on the back of the front 2 segments of the gaster, but not very prominent on the majors. Medium-sized worker ants have a body length of 6 to 7 mm, and the smallest cast has a body length of 4 to 6 mm. The queen's length is 12 mm. This species has high tolerance to harsh conditions in the wild. In fact, my first species I kept was a Camponotus albosparsus. I remembered I had not fed them anything for weeks and they were still alive when I came back from a long 10 days holiday overseas. If you have kept this species, we know they are very timid and refuse to forage for food in the very early stages. Even the slightest disturbance will send them running back into the nest chamber. During young colony establishment, it is utmost important that they are left undisturbed in exception to feeding. They have a good memory if they have ever had bad experiences. They will take a long time to muster the courage to leave their nest. A larger colony, they are the most pleasurable to watch as their nest has the most activity compared to the other larger Camponotus species. I have discovered that trying to put 2 queens during the founding does work. Both will lay eggs almost simultaneously. But later on, they will start fighting and nudging at each other. Perhaps maybe for space or a show of dominance. There isn't much documentation on Camponotus being successful in a polygynous setup, but I do believe they cannot be in close proximity of each other. The ants build nests underground, and the mouth of the nest is piled into a funnel with soil debris. When disturbed, they will crawl out of the nests quickly, with their gaster raised. Some predators may be confused with their defense mechanism due to the two spots on their gaster which mimic a pair of eyes. They usually move on the ground and rarely go up on the tree. And, lastly, the Iridomyrmex bicknelli. What more can I tell about this species? If you are looking for an interesting species to keep, this will be the one that you will not be bored with. They are one of the species I always have to look at every day. Well, just to take a peek so that I know they weren't up to any mischievous plans. They need to be kept busy with food at all times, otherwise they will plan to escape by circling the entire nest close to the barrier. They are not afraid of anything, and cleaning the nest is a chore for me. Not only that they are bold, they are really fast as well. Most people will think that they are small, but they aren't that small. They are considered medium-size ants, and workers can reach the size of 5 millimeters. This particular species are not all black at all. There is a whitish coating on the body, somewhat silverish. They work in swarms and certainly are very good in groups. They can bring down large prey with their sheer quantity. They have many names, one of them is meat ants. They love freshly killed insects, and can finish 3 to 4 giant crickets in a day. I am trying to find a perfect word to describe this species, but I can only think of violent. They are a very violent ant species which they will bite. They don't scurry off and are always waiting in the outworld to attack, whether it be food or a tweezer. They do not really need a specific kind of nest as most people say they will need. I kept mine in an acrylic formicarium which requires assembly. They adjusted to the nest environment very quickly. Additional steps need to be taken, like to glue all the sides with acrylic adhesive. This is the most crucial thing, if you want to keep them in an acrylic formicarium. Otherwise, you can opt for a tub setup and a good anti-escape barrier. So far they are not able to cross my powder barrier yet, but I see them testing the barrier every day at the corners where they can feel air coming into the nest. If you want to start your first colony, and if you want to witness swarming and feeding frenzy, this Iridomyrmex will be the species you want to keep. We have reached the end of the video. I hope you like what you have watched. Do leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the Ants Subong channel if you have not. Thank you for watching. Ants Subong.